You ready?
Yes.
Well, kick it.
Welcome to Hardheaded Podcast. I am your host, Chet Sears. With me, as always, Matt, Amos, and Troy. Three-shot Trussell. Welcome to episode 206. 206. We're in November. We got some pretty good stuff to talk to you about today. I was going to say exciting. It may not be exciting, but reconnecting with old friends and why it's important to stay connected with those that you haven't talked to in a while. We're going to cover our top 3 dumbest ways you've gotten injured. Top 3 dumbest ways you've gotten injured, and then Matt's going to close this out with a good word. So, what prompted this for us is reconnecting with old friends. A couple of weeks ago, I had a friend of mine that passed away. His name was Hardy Strain. Good friend of mine from college. We actually roomed together. One of the funnier stories I have. We lived in what we call the BSU house, and it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house. The 4th bedroom was the carport that they had closed in, or a garage that they closed in, so it was a bigger room. And Hardy and I shared that room, and I knew him really well before we moved in together. But first night there, we had like 2 twin beds in there, and then like kind of a living area in the room because it was so big. And I wake up from my first night there to a commotion, like not violent, but just noise that you normally don't hear in a bedroom. And I lifted my head up and I looked, and there's Hardy naked in the living area of our bedroom, and he's butt flossing, like drying off. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh God, you got to dry the butt crack whenever you get out of the shower." And I'm like, "Why are you drying off in the bedroom?" He's like, "This is what I do," And then from then on, I knew if I was awoken by something in the middle of the night or in the morning, I just don't look up. I'm not looking up. It's not worth it. But anyway, a hilarious dude, a good friend of mine. And over the years, every now and then we'd text, but really kind of disconnected. And he had some health issues and a really rough last few months of his life that I was unaware of. And then he was actually a good friend of my wife's as well. And the way everything fell out with the funeral, I was not able to go, but we were able to get her down there. And she was able to reconnect. Like everybody came out of the woodwork and showed up for the funeral, went, and they were invited to go to Hardy's mom's house and hang out. And all the stories and all the good times from college, and she was very appreciative of it, in addition to everybody being there and reconnecting. And they got me to thinking, like, why don't we stay connected? Why do we get caught up? I know why. It's like we always say we're busy. Like we got other stuff going on. Maybe you had some really rough times in life that you may be embarrassed about your really good friends from yesteryear knowing about it. So you don't want to connect, but I got to thinking, like, is there a list of guys that I was really close to that I should reconnect with? And the answer is, yeah, probably so. Like, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think it's good to keep in touch. I got a few close friends that we have a text thread, kind of like us three. We have a text thread that goes on. I mean, y'all argue every day on it, but
yeah,
I chime in every once in a while. But I got a few text threads like that with good friends that we talk at least once a week on. And then I have another set of friends that if I don't hear from them in 6 months or so, I'm reaching out, just say, hey, how are things? What's going on with the family? I think it's just good to keep an open line of communication on, some of your old friends that you really care about.
I get a lot of people I'm following you on your social media account, so I assume everything's good. But we all know that we don't post.
Yeah. Well, the
crap.
two that I'm thinking of that I talk to, every 6 months or so, they don't even have social media.
Yeah.
So, like, I have no clue what they're doing.
Right. And even if they did, you have no clue what they're doing.
Exactly.
They went on vacation.
Yeah, I see what when their wife posts something, if they went and did something.
Or maybe they killed a big buck and posted that. Who knows?
Yeah.
And Matt, you do a lot of work keeping in touch with some of the veterans that you know, right?
Yeah. And that, I mean, for me, that's one of the harder things because I'm a pretty private person. I don't really have a need to communicate a whole lot, unless there's something specific. I don't know what you would call that, but I'm more of I'm not a small talk, chit chat type of person. There's got to be facts. Let's get, it annoys my wife to no end because she'll want to talk about things. And then I'm like, just give me the facts. Just give me the details.
Like, why are you telling me all of this and what do you need me to do?
Exactly. Like you've talked around it. What's the actual thing? So so that's one of the things that I've had to learn and try to teach myself to do, and it's a learning process for me continually because it's not something that comes by habit for me to do. But yeah, when you know so many people, it's hard to keep in contact with everybody. And I'm always, and on the opposite side of that, I'm always appreciative of those who reach out to me.
Right.
And say, hey, how are you doing? Because those are very few.
Yeah.
And so, and that's kind of made me realize, well, if nobody's doing that for me, then who's doing that for everybody else? And so that's kind of motivated me a little bit more to be like, hey, just check it in, man, making sure I haven't heard from you in a while. Just how are things going? What's up? What are you doing?
I had somebody, and this has been about a year or two ago, but somebody I hadn't seen in a long time, and I was like, man, I just feel like it's been forever since we connected, and you kind of described it, maybe a little overboard, like, what happened? Like, what? And they were like, man, it's like I talked to you yesterday. I listened to your podcast. So it's like they're getting everything from me. Right. And I'm not getting anything from them, but they feel like they're 100% connected and that we actually had a conversation.
And you downplay social media a little bit, but I do that with some people because some people do put all of their stuff out there, the good, the bad, and everything like that. And I follow along, and those are the people that I'm like, okay, I'm tracking what you're doing. And then those are the ones that it's so hard for me to reach out to because I just forget. I'm like, well, yeah, but this and this and this. And it's like, they say the same thing. Well, I haven't heard from you in forever. It's like, I just saw you post yesterday and I liked it. So,
yeah, that's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
Sabrina Romanoff, a clinical psychologist, gives us some reasons why we should reconnect with old friends. One of them is reliving happy memories. It helps you, relive some of the adventures you have, some of the strong bonds that you have developed through the challenging times you may have been through. I could see definitely where that would, the bond that you had in combat doesn't exist anywhere else. So connecting with the people that were there with you is going to give you.
Yeah, it's extremely unique.
And then just getting in touch with your past. Sometimes we forget who we were. And if you're not connected to any of those folks from your past, you're not going to remember. And they could bring that up. One of the things that I think is really cool too is we assume we know that we change, and I say we. I'll say that myself. I remember people from when that I went to high school with, and my memories of them, I'm assuming they're the same way today, and that's not true. I'm not the same as I was when I was in high school. Yeah. But one thing that we do have,
probably way more unbearable now,
is I would be in 100% agreement with that. But you actually have trust. You've already built trust with that person, and now they have new life experiences. So you could be getting a new perspective on any situation you're dealing with from somebody that you trust, but you don't know what they're going to say because you don't know what their experiences have been, which I think is a pretty big advantage. And then it's also going to build your community back up. I think there was a huge shrinking of your community during the COVID shutdowns, and everybody kind of had an opportunity to you kind of narrow some things down. And maybe that was really good for some people because they may have been running with the wrong crowd. But that doesn't mean that you need to stay small. You could open that, expand that community back up as well. And that especially with your roots, like where you came from, the people that remember you growing up, know your ugly stuff that people don't know. Somebody you met in adulthood doesn't know when you were goofing off as a teenager. Don't know what that's like. But there's a couple watch outs here that's in this article. It says, things could get awkward as well. Sometimes there are hurt feelings in that friendship that you may not even be aware of, that they may be holding something against you. And the changes over time that do occur, sometimes they're not all changes for good. So be careful when you're, be cautious, I would say, when you're doing that reconnecting to make sure that everything's still good and there's not something that maybe that person isn't trustworthy anymore. So you got to have some watch outs for that too. But then a couple tips on how to make it less awkward. You could reach out in social media. So a message on Facebook is a lot different than a phone call and allows for some measured response, not catch anybody off guard or catching somebody that genuinely wants to talk to you, but they don't have enough time. So they cut the conversation short. Then you may not want to jump back in because you thought that they didn't want to talk at all. And then, the other thing you could do is show some love right out of the gate. Be very appreciative, talk about the good times and what they meant to you, and kind of open that door back up. That you're not calling them with some pyramid scheme that you want them to join in and start selling some makeup or something like that. I don't know what.
Buy these essential oils. Yeah, and it's always good to talk about things you did in the past together. Just rehashing old memories and kind of, that saying like, man, I hadn't seen you in 5 years, but I feel like we hadn't skipped a beat. We just pick up right where we left off.
Right.
And that I feel like that connection is created through like, hey, last time we got together, we did this. Remember?
Right.
Feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So, yeah.
I know, man. And there's a few, like I think there's a couple places that I've done well at staying connected, and definitely a ton that I completely failed at. But one of them, that first crew that I worked with in when I got into a professional career after college, you guys both know Griff. And there's a few key folks that I have made a very hard effort. And actually, this is the 2024. So we moved up here in 2007, and it's 2024. This year, it's not over yet. Maybe the first year that I haven't connected with him in person since I've moved, which sucks. But it also goes, man, that's been a lot of effort put in where we get together at the lake and fish at least, typically 2 times a year, but at least once a year. And this year it didn't happen in the spring. We knew it wasn't going to happen in the spring, and then let's plan for the fall. But it's getting towards the end of the year, and it may not work out. We're both extremely busy right now. So,
do either one of y'all have that friend like when you see a text from him or you see an incoming call from him, either one of our old friends got arrested, one of them died. Like, it's always bad news. Do y'all have one of those?
I do not.
I've got one of those.
Yeah.
And every time he calls or texts, when he texts, he usually has the mugshot along with it of one of our old acquaintances that's been arrested.
Well, maybe I do have that friend, but maybe we do not have a mutual acquaintance that has a shady, a shady path right now.
Yeah, I got one from him probably a couple of months ago. He was like, "Oh yeah, check this out." It's a mugshot of a dude that went to college with us, but we knew from Shreveport, and I was just like, oh, what an idiot.
Yeah.
I don't have any similar or I guess overlapping friends or many with this person, but Brandon at the office, he's that guy.
Yeah.
He knows so many people, and
He's connected.
You'll see something in the news. You'll be like, man, did you see that? And he goes, oh yeah, I went to high school with that guy and blah, blah. Yeah. He got hopped up on drugs and then shot that chick down there. And then that's, that was him,
Yeah.
Like what?
I remember it was something about some dude that came up and, yeah, I remember that guy like stole my 4-wheeler when I was in Manhattan, for some football game. I was like, you didn't go to school. He's like, I know. I was just there at a party. And somebody came and stole my friend's 4-wheeler. And that was that guy, I'm like, that was like 15 years ago, Brandon. He's like, yeah, but that was him.
It never fails. Like I asked him, I was like, cause he's from Wellington.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, how many of your classmates have overdosed, have been arrested or committed murder? And he goes, at least 30%. Like, I mean, it's an astronomical number like that. He's like, oh yeah, there's been at least 4 or 5 murders and whatever. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the class above me in high school.
Yeah.
Jonathan, his class, like they were just, man, one right after the other.
No way.
Something was happening. One of them died in high school. He flew out the back of a truck while they were going like 80 and the 18-wheeler rolled over him.
Did you guys have somebody die in high school? Like everybody has somebody die in high school.
We had one suicide.
Mine was a guy that was bush hogging on a tractor and he was the EpiPen kind of guy with the stings. Mm-hmm. He ran over a beehive, and in an effort to get away from that as fast as he could, jumped off and got run over by the tractor.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh man!
But our kids have been through all that. Like it's not that normal.
No, we had 2 fraternity brothers in college.
But back then, it seemed like every class had somebody that died.
Yeah.
And my graduating class was 42. Like it wasn't just because there's like 1,000 kids.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it doesn't seem like the norm nowadays. But it was back then, like our generation.
Yeah, and I don't know if we hear about it as much. I mean, we had the one guy that committed suicide, and that was like during school, and then the year we graduated, like that summer before college, we had one pass away from cancer, and then another one was in a car wreck. Like, real close together. Wow. I mean, so that's 3 in our class, and same class size, really. Yeah. And so, just kind of weird, but you don't really hear about that too much. Now, my daughter's graduating class, they had one kid get in a car wreck and pass away. Yeah.
Mm. That's typically what does it too, is car wrecks, right? That's the riskiest thing that most high schoolers are going through.
All the more reason to stay connected.
Well, it is. There's a you guys have a lot of shared experiences, and I think it's worthwhile. So I've got a couple people in mind that I'm going to reach out to in the next few weeks, and I probably won't follow up with you guys just to let you know how it goes, podcast world. But I'm looking forward to it. Really wanting to. One of the things that I also have learned about myself is my memories of things that happened are not always accurate. Because when you start reconnecting with some, you're like, oh, I remember such. No, that didn't happen that way. It was this way,
Yeah.
Like, that's not how I remember it. But, I like being wrong in those instances because they're there and they remember. Or maybe they're wrong and I'm right. Who knows? But I think it's pretty cool. All right, we're going to move on. Top 3. How did I word that?
Dumbest ways you got
injured. Matt, I'm going to let you go first.
There's a lot. Number 3, I'm out at the lake and trying to start a fire. And, at that time they had one of those barrels.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, this stupid thing isn't starting. And so I went and grabbed some like butane.
Yeah.
And sprayed the fire down. And then when I went to light it, it sunk. And I mean, it burned the crap out of the top of my hand.
Yeah.
And like all of my
Facial hair.
eyebrow. I didn't have facial hair at the time, but yeah, eyebrows were gone.
Eyelashes.
And it burned bad. Yeah, and that was just, and as soon as it happened, I was like, oh, that was dumb. Why did I do that? That was stupid. Immediately.
Did you play with fire a lot as a kid?
I did.
Yeah, me too.
And it was one of those things, I did it, and immediately upon, I was like, oh, you idiot. That was dumb. I knew I shouldn't have done it as I was doing it, but did it anyway because I was like, man, it's pretty chilly out here. So that was stupid. Number two, depends on how you want to classify injury, but I came down with the absolute worst case of poison ivy. The borderline like ER visit.
Yeah. They give you shots for that? Cream? Like what's the?
No, because I didn't have any insurance.
I'm not allergic to poison ivy.
I didn't used to be until this incident was it. So let me
set the stage for us, man.
Let me set the stage. It was dollar beer night at a local drinking establishment. Between my buddy and I, we had $180 tab on dollar beer night, and I wasn't gonna.
Hopefully, you got some nachos or something in there.
No, it was all dollar beers, and so
they come in the little cup.
Oh.
No, dollar cans.
Dollar cans?
12-ounce cans.
You're old.
For $1.
I hope y'all passed a lot out. There's no way you can drink 54 each.
There's taxes.
Trust me, it can be done.
This is fitting very well into really dumb ways that you got hurt.
Right.
So
before you got hurt, did you say, watch this or hold my beer?
Yeah.
No, this was just a series of bad choices. So prior to going out that evening, my buddy had just purchased a brand new truck, and it was coming up on like the at the time it was 30-day tags, not 60-day tags. And so we it was like, I believe it was in November. So it was November 17th. And that was like at midnight that night.
Yeah.
And we knew we were going to be out past midnight, or we were going to be out past midnight. So he took
his
a
temporary
Sharpie,
tags would have been
expired at midnight.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that if you've had any alcohol. You don't want to get pulled over, because that's just the reason they pull you over, to get up behind you and they see the tag.
Yeah.
So he changed it from a 7 to a 9 with a permanent marker. Dumb decision number one. We get to the bar, and like I said, we had a good night, and then we're getting ready to leave, and I was like, well, yeah, let's call a cab and let's head on home. And he's like, well,
I am not leaving my new truck up here.
I'm not leaving my brand new truck in this parking lot. And I was like, we'll just come. It's like, we'll come get it in like 5 hours.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. We'll just come back. No, I'm not going to leave it here. And I was like, well, I'm not going to just let him go home by himself. So we load in the pickup. Yeah. We go.
Because a drunk driver and a drunk passenger is much more safe than a drunk driver.
Hey.
Genius.
Bad decision number 2.
Horrible.
So we're driving, and we're I don't know. I don't even know where we're. I have no idea where we're at still to this day.
After 54 beers, I'm surprised you were walking. Period. But
I had good legs, and I was a professional drinker at that point in time in my life, and so we're driving, and he looks up in the rearview mirror, and he's like, "Is that a cop behind us?" So I'm looking. I'm like, I don't know. He goes, "I think that's a cop." So he turns off, and of course it's snowing, and you can't really see real well. So he's trying to lose this cop. We turn down this road. It's dirt road. We're going, and then all of a sudden we stopped. Just stopped.
Yeah.
It was a dead end road, and there was those signs with the lines on them that says
dead end. Yeah.
Dead end. And we went right through that into a tree. And so OnStar comes on, and it's like, hey, we've recognized you've been in a wreck. Do you need any assistance? He's like, nope, we're good. And they're like, well, we have to send the cops, and so anyway, long story short, I end up crawling through this field, and I came down with the absolute worst case of poison ivy I've ever had in my life, and it was at least 2 months of oatmeal baths, and it was it was awful.
Right. You deserved every bit of it.
100% deserved every single. There's way more to that story, but for the sake of, because I don't know if enough time has gone by.
The statute of limitations.
But so I don't want to tell too much of that story, but yeah, it was. Yeah, it was
that's the dumbest way, and that is an injury.
Oh yeah,
poison ivy.
Oh,
or like chiggers.
Wait, was that number 2?
Yeah.
So what's number 1?
Number 1 is I deployed to Iraq the first time in 2006. I got blown up. And then I thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and re-enlist. And I got blown up again. Lost my legs. It's pretty dumb to be that hard-headed to say, you know what? I'm going to take my chances again.
I think it goes back to the watching Lonesome Dove. Like that was where you made the mistake.
I blame Lonesome. Yeah. Well, so the dumbest ways I venture myself, I watched Lonesome Dove twice when I shouldn't have.
Yep, there you go.
Good gracious. Those are, I mean, I'm not going to be able to top, not that I'm trying to top that.
Don't want to top that.
No. I mentioned something about you being really good at finding IEDs the other day to somebody that knows you, but doesn't know you like I know you. And they almost lost it. Because they were like, that Matt's a pretty good guy. And I'm like, yeah, he's really good at finding IEDs too. He's found 2 of them. And they didn't know what to say to that.
Two found me.
Yeah.
I found a lot, but 2 found me.
Oh man.
All right, I'll go next. So you guys grew up playing football, like in the yard?
Oh yeah.
You did a little. Have you ever done like flag football with socks, like the tube socks, and those were your flags? You just tuck them down in your.
We never did that.
Yeah,
we always played tackle.
And then at school, in PE, you can't play tackle.
Right. So they had flags.
We played 2-hand touch in my school.
Yeah, we did that too.
I broke my arm playing 2-hand touch football.
That's so dumb.
Not even falling down. Like I literally, there's this big dude. His name was Scott, and he's just like this, kind of I'm a brute, and I don't think about anything, and hopefully I get a job at the oil field, but I'm not gonna learn anything while I'm in school. And I'm blocking for the quarterback, and the dude just like this bull rush. And I'm like, no. And then he pushes my arm, like one hand here, and then breaks it against my
over your other arm.
Yeah. And I was like, this is really dumb. And I was like, man, that really hurt. And then like coach was like, hey, get back up there. And I'm like, I think my arm's like really hurt. And he's like, well, you hold your hands out and do like this. And I went, yeah, because it hurt. It was bad. So the number 2 way, and I'm not, this is how I remember the story going. I was too young to know if this is true or not, but I'm 95% certain that I busted my head. I know I busted my head open, and I know it was at church, falling downstairs at the church we went to in Japan. And there's a possibility that I fell into a rocking chair at the church, but we'll just say go for 95% certain. I was at the top of the stairs as a toddler, and I fell down all the stairs and then ended up with getting stitches in my eyebrow.
There's a lot that's making sense for Troy and I right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is tied to my number 1, this recent knee injury, stairs at church. I kid you not. I'm literally walking down the stairs at church, and somebody's behind me and says something, and I as I'm stepping down in an awkward whatever, turning, twisting, pow! right there.
You just explained my second IED.
Yeah.
I turned around, boom. Yep.
Except yours was a little bit different than mine.
Yeah, mine's a man injury, and yours is just weak. But
I'll tell you right now.
Hopefully you get through this.
So far,
Troy and I will be by your side.
I'm making it. Stay in contact with me because you never know. Anyway, Troy, what you got?
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, I nailed the top cabinet on my receding hairline here.
Okay.
Turned around and hit it harder that it almost knocked me out.
You saw stars?
I did hit the ground. I saw those spots that fly around.
Yeah.
When you close your eyes.
Did you collapse or fall over?
I buckled and collapsed.
Yeah.
Like I hit it so hard.
Yeah.
What happened, we had been rearranging the stuff in the pantry. I had closed one of them, turned around, and noticed that the dog didn't have any food and water. And so I was going to lean down and grab her food and give her some food. And I hit that top cabinet that I didn't close.
Yeah.
And I didn't, it's just right out of the line of sight.
Yeah.
That it nailed me. And then I got on to my 12-year-old, which I shouldn't have.
For not feeding the dog.
Yeah. 10 minutes earlier when I asked him to.
Gaslighting your child.
I did.
It's your fault.
Wrong.
You want your dad to die from a head injury?
It was so wrong and in the moment. And I apologized to him later. I was like, that's not your fault. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
That was dumb.
So I had one of those. I was getting in the back of a 7-ton Armadillo, which was the Up Armor 7 tons that we had back in Iraq. And these things are just, the whole back end is just like plate steel and steel tubing to, if an IED, it deflects it. And these were, if you were injured in an Armadillo, your chances of survivability were pretty good because they were just that heavy.
Yeah.
But I climbed up in there to grab something, and I wasn't paying attention. And I came back, and I whacked that steel bar I about knocked myself out. Same thing. I saw stars, and it took me 2-3 minutes. And ever since that day, I've had floaters.
Yeah.
That was the day that caused the floaters in my vision was getting knocked that silly.
The only time I've been knocked that silly was I was trimming.
Last time you talked smack to me.
Whatever,
you
dude.
in the face.
I was trimming a crepe myrtle, and you know how they have those little offshoots that come out of the bottom all the time.
Yeah.
And if you don't stay on top of them, they get pretty. And I was helping. I was at the BSU, at the Baptist Student Union, and I was going to summer school one summer, and I was like, I'll do some cleanup around here. And so I had this hand axe, and I just took my leg. There's a whole bunch of them coming out from the bottom, and I just took my foot and stepped them over on the ground, and in where they're bent, where all that tension is. I took that axe and I was like, whack, and a piece came flying out and hit me in my eyeball. My eyeball, not a closed eyes. Yeah, this is back. This is back before you wore safety glasses. Dude, I hit the ground in stars. I'm out, and I'm alone. I just sit there for a while. I'm like, dude, that cold cocked me. And I ended up going to the doctor. I had a scratched retina and all kinds of crazy stuff. Had to do these eye drops but boom. What's that?
Cornea?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, retina's in the back, right? Yeah. The cornea. Maybe it did.
I don't know
retina.
because it could tear it.
All I know, I went down. That was I
didn't go down, but we're hijacking Troy's top 3 here. But
I'm sorry, Troy.
It's all good.
I was chainsawing when I was a kid, and I had one of those pieces, and it came back and stuck me right in the eyeball.
Yeah.
And went inside. It was stuck. And I'm going to my mom. My mom is notorious for freaking out anytime something happens to her. Which may have turned me into the hypochondriac that I am today because everything that's wrong with me is something super major. But she saw that and she was like, "Oh no, and she immediately she's praying and everything, and then all of a sudden the tears start, washing it out. And it just slowly started to descend until it finally came out of my eye. But I mean, it was stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Troy. Yeah, hit in the head with the cabinet. What's your number 2?
In the head with the cabinet. 2, I had 2 sports injuries in 6th grade. I tried to catch a football punt with that finger and broke it.
Okay.
Like a punt that was super high.
You're like, oh, look at that punt.
Well, I was just like, yeah, I went to catch it, and I don't know what it did. It jammed that finger.
Took your eye off the prize.
Yep. So that, and then same thing, pop ball, baseball.
Yeah. Same year, different hand?
Same year, but I went to catch it, and it hit me square in the junk.
Ah.
And put me down for I don't know, I was probably on the ground for 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's just one of they got you where you couldn't breathe that well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. And of course, your friends just laugh at you when that happens.
Right.
So, yeah. So those are 2 dumb sports injuries. And then number 1, I think I mentioned this on the podcast a long time ago, but you know those what are those big thick wire things that go into the ground
on the light pole,
hold up telephone poles.
They normally have like an orange or yellow plastic sleeve on it.
Right. Yeah. Well, we were at church camp. We had just gotten there. We were unloading our bags and everything, and we started playing tag or something. This girl was coming at me to tag me, and I turned around and sprinted as fast as I could. But I was standing right by one of those things, and I ran up it with my thigh. Like it went in between my legs, and it ripped my shorts from inner thigh all the way up to my waist and around. And so I'm hanging out it's gashed my inner thigh.
You're hanging out.
And I'm hanging out, and I'm trying to dig into my bag. Where can I go change pants now? Because my leg hurts and I'm flashing everybody. So it was dumb and it was embarrassing. And yeah, it was one of the dumbest ways I ever gotten injured.
Watching where you're running. That's the
number 1. Yep.
Watch where you are running. Well, good deal. Fun top 3. Matt, you got a good word for us? Maybe there's a Bible verse about watch where you're going, or wearing safety glasses, or not using a highly combustible, flammable agent to start a fire.
I'm just going to say, because there's some people that are really happy right now with the election results. There's some people that are not very happy with election results.
All right.
So I've got a verse.
I agree with that.
And this verse comes from Romans 13. Everyone must submit to governing authorities, for all authority comes from God, and those in positions of authority have been placed there by God. So anybody who rebels against authority is rebelling against God, what God has instituted, and they will be punished. No matter who's in office, God put them there. They're there for a reason, and it's to further his will. So one way or another, the person in charge is meant to be in charge. Don't compromise your faith, but obey the authorities.
All right. That is a good word.
That's the good word.
Thank you for joining us for episode 206. Like, subscribe, share, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Hardheaded Podcast. Don't forget to share this podcast with others to help us get the word out.
Also, if you haven't yet, please rate and review the show. This helps our podcast show up in other people's suggested shows that may or may not have listened to us before.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.